Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros. This is Leading Off. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia. That, of course, is Dinger Dan Harris. And it's you, and we're talking all things baseball on this Friday. We've got the July 4th weekend coming up here. Lots of fun, lots of hot dog eating over at Nathan's, lots of baseball to be played, and lots of baseball to talk about. So, Dinger Dan got on the board last night with a home run. The drought is over. Feeling good going into this holiday weekend, I assume, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, when I get my home run call, although the Peanuts and the Cracker Jacks did not celebrate it well enough on Discord, I tried to basically be like, guys, look, and they were like, whatever. Goldschmidt was so obvious, and broken clock is right twice a day, which is a fair description of my home run calls. But anyway, yeah, I'm excited. It's going to rain here all weekend, but whatever. It's July 4th. It's a day to celebrate. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, it's gone from 97 degrees to 70 degrees in about a day here. So I'm a little not sure what's going on, not sure how that's all working out, but look, we got a lot to get to, and we got the waiver wire to hit, we got DFS, so let's just jump into it here because of course we have to start with the ups. I mean, the ups are Jacob deGrom. I understand the Mets lost this game with the Freeman walk-off, but 14 Ks. This is great. I know he struggled in the first inning a little bit. Like, his version of struggling is hilarious compared to everybody else. So now maybe his ERA is close to 1. But, here's the point. 14 Ks later, still showing you can go out there and kind of get right and get mad and not hurt himself. That was a big takeaway for me. A beautiful reception for Nolan Arenado in Colorado. I love this. This was great. I wanted him to hit the home run, unfortunately. It was Goldie, which you called. But alas, we can't have everything now, can we? And Joey Gallo, 5th straight game with a home run. Joey Gallo is on fire right now. So where do you want to start today with the ups?
I mean, I guess Gallo, we've talked about him a couple of times, but now he's up to 20 on the year. That's worth halfway through. That's a 40 homer pace. For all the, pulling your hair out about Gallo, this is exactly what kind of we expected him to be. And when you draft these guys, and again, Joe, we talk a lot about it, the overwhelming majority of people play roto. And I know, categories leagues, he's tougher to roster, right? Because he's basically like, I'll win you a week or I'll lose you 6 weeks, right? Like, that's basically what he is in it. But in a roto league, just put him in there. We talked about it. Kudos to you. You were a guy pushing Brantley before the season. I was kind of like off, whatever. Pair him with a high average guy, whoever it is, and you have basically an elite combination of players. So I draft Gallo every year. I know it's frustrating, but for me, he's somebody who I roll with time and time again. And as long as you can take the batting average hit, which by the way is now 240, that's not crazy at this point.
No,
you can get away with it. So I love him.
You'll take anything even close to 250 from Joey Gallo if you can get that. The difference between us is I play in a lot of head-to-head points leagues. That's my format. And those negative strikeouts, they kill you. And that's the thing. That's why I never have Joey Gallo. And the other formats I play in Roto happen to be OBP, like some of the expert leagues. And that's also not necessarily always Joey Gallo's historic again, better recently years, but it's one of those things where batting average, sometimes it can hurt you, sometimes too, with Joey Gallo. But you make a good point. It's about roster construction, which I think is something that everybody should remember when they're looking at players at discounts who do one thing really great. I actually think head-to-head roto categories is a good spot for Joey Gallo, because when he gets hot like this, he's very useful, and when he's not, you can bench him in favor of somebody who's just okay.
But, that's interesting to me, Joe, because I think that points, forget about it. You avoid Gallo in points leagues altogether because the strikeouts are just too much of a negative. For me, road head-to-head categories, that would be tougher for me because I don't know when he's going to go off, right? Like, I don't have the book on this is a week that Joey Gallo goes great. So I feel like I'd always bench him. With Roto, for me, that's the easiest thing to do because I'm just like,
set him and forget him.
I'm well aware that there are going to be times where I'm looking at Joey Gallo and I'm being like, this guy is absolutely killing me, but I'm just going to leave him in there because I know over the long haul, for the most part, it's going to be pretty solid production. And with OBP leagues, for me, I mean, that's much better. I mean, he's got basically a 20% walk rate this year, but he's always in the double digits. So a guy who walks and balances out the strikeouts, I don't know. I've always been kind of a Gallo fan. And if he gets out of Texas, probably he's going to have even more home runs because Texas isn't a great hitter's park anymore.
In head-to-head roto, I feel like I love the guys that have the ability to just crush one category for you. It's like the old Gerard Dyson kind of thing. Like, the guy's not very good, but he could win steals for you in a week if you just have him in the lineup. And same thing with Gallo. I mean, when Gallo's hot, he's 7 home runs in a week possibly. He's showing you right now. And that is a stunning feat that not a lot of guys can do. All right, where there's ups, of course, there's downs. The Giants lose to the Diamondbacks. Ew, gross. I mean, I know you can't lose every game, Diamondbacks, but just wanted to throw this out there. So good on you, Diamondbacks. Hooray. Everybody pizza and ice cream again, Diamondbacks. Another loss for Patrick Corbin. 5.5 ERA now. He looked better in the recent starts, and then this was not a good one for him. And Mark Melancon blows another save. So 2 points here for me on the downs. The first one with Corbin. If the Nationals are going to compete, and they're only a few games out of first, they've really got to either get Strasburg right quick, or they've got to look somewhere else, because Corbin clearly is never going to get back to being the guy that he was a few years ago. And I think the Padres would be wise, as good as Melancon was, and he was like perfect, right, the first 2 months of the season. June into July clearly have not been perfect for Melancon. Maybe it would be smart for them to get some more bullpen help, somebody else with closer experience, just as an insurance policy, because you're the Padres, you're going to be in this in the end in September, October, so you might as well start planning for that sooner than later. Those are my 2 points. I don't think Melancon's going to lose the job, but I think it would not be shocking to see them bring in an insurance policy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably right. That some of the Padres are going to be one of the biggest buyers because they're right in the midst of it. They have a great team. They're going for it this year, as they should. So they will bring in bullpen help, of course, because you've had Pomerantz, who's basically been lost for most of the season. They need help regardless. I don't know whether or not you're going to have that ace closer out there, because I think at this point, unless Melancon completely implodes, you're going to need to bring in somebody with a pretty established history. Maybe if the Cubs decide to sell, maybe it's going to be Craig Kimbrell or something like that. In that case, that's fine. But certainly Melancon has pitched closer to the pitcher we expected to see lately. So he is somebody who's a little bit on tenuous ground. For Corbin, it wasn't that bad for the most part. It's against the Dodgers, of course. You gave a grand slam to, at the end of the, or Muncy at the grand slam that kind of ruined his numbers. But I agree. I mean, this isn't a guy who's ever going to be close to the guy. Remember, they signed him to this long deal. They got ridiculed. He had a great first year. They were like, ha, ha, ha. But this is basically exactly what everybody was worried about long term. So, yeah, they're going to have to add if they decide to go for it. They still seem a little bit on the fence. And as for the Giants, the one thing we can take away is Joakim Soria got the save. Yay, now we know in the next, 2 wins that the Diamondbacks will have before the trade deadline, maybe Joakim Soria will get the save. So
actually, there's a perfect guy, too, San Diego could pick up. I mean, Soria is a guy that's got closer experience. Like, it's going to be that kind of a dude, probably another veteran guy. I mean, or maybe they'll go and pluck the guy from Pittsburgh. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But it would be smart for them to be aggressive there, because that's one thing you can't afford. You can't lose games in the playoffs and in September where you're fighting for position there in the playoffs. You can't lose them in the bullpen. You just can't do it. You can't go in the leads. It's not good baseball. All right, some stuff to talk about. The big stuff. Who's got good stuff? The Major League Baseball batting average, by the way, since the foreign substance ban has gone up 7 whole points collectively.
What?
I know. Isn't that crazy,
Amazing.
Dan?
Amazing.
I thought that was a fun
coincidence.
little stat that I saw, and I plucked it. I find things, I pluck them, and I bring them here in a lovely bouquet for you all to smell and enjoy. So smell the roses on that one. Also, Chris Sale thinks that his return is going to be the final piece for the Boston Red Sox. Dan, do you agree? Because I don't see the Yankees adding Max Scherzer. That doesn't seem like that's going to happen. I don't know if Toronto is going to be able to add a real pitcher of note. Even if they could bring in a Kyle Gibson or somebody like that, that's really good. But Chris Sale at his best is obviously an ace, and that might be the only team right now in the East that can do that in terms of adding somebody to the rotation. So what are your thoughts here on Chris Sale's comments?
I mean, if Sale returns healthy, and we've seen winning Sale and Severino and Syndergaard, the latter two have had their setbacks. Sale so far hasn't and is coming through. If he returns and he's anything close to what he is, I mean, that is like the equivalent of somebody trading for Max Scherzer at the deadline, right? It's a complete impact thing. That would definitely change the race. I'm still not counting on it, right? I'm still waiting for something to go wrong. But if he does come back, and if I basically were confident right now that he'd come back, then I'd probably put them as favorites to win the division. As it is, you and I talked about it. We still both kind of feel like Toronto is going to make a run at some point, probably at a pitcher. But yeah, if Sale comes back healthy, which again, I'm not counting on right now, then certainly that changes the complexion of the AL East race.
On FanDuel, the Blue Jays are 25-1 to win the World Series.
Yeah.
I don't think it's crazy.
Yeah.
We
talked about that.
Really
about that. But Ryu, by the way, Ryu has to figure things out a little bit. He's been struggling, including last night. So
yeah, but I'm not concerned, because yesterday in that game against Kikuchi too, we brought up that outside of Bo Bichette, they don't really hit left-handed pitching all that well. And Kikuchi
No.
had pitched very well, and this was a perfect, like, kind of spoiler game, day game after a night game, all that kind of stuff. Like, it's kind of, I mean, I get it. Like, that one, but you're right. I would say in the last month, you look at Ryu's game log.
Yeah.
The last time he struck out 6 guys in a game was May 28th is what I saw yesterday. So, I mean that's something where that's a very long time.
And he's got a 4.88 ERA in June. Like, that wasn't
a bad
good.
June. Yeah,
he had a bad June, and then obviously he had to start. Yesterday, where
things weren't good.
Things are starting to slip a little bit. But again, a guy, by the way, like, I don't know how you view Ryu. I view him as like Kyle Hendricks at his absolute best, which is, for the most part, he's not overpowering. He has a few more strikeouts, but it's real easy for things to go wrong if, like, there's just a little bit out of place, right? Mm-hmm. So if he just, his command isn't perfect, they're not chasing as much, things can go wrong, and he can get them right away. So for me, I'm not worried at all about Ryu, but it is worth noting, like, if the Blue Jays are going to make a run, Ryu kind of has to turn things around, and he's been struggling for over a month at this point.
Agreed. I think that's a good way of putting it. And look, guys go on, have bad months, and then get back on track as well. So the All-Star team was announced yesterday. So here are the starters at catcher. You got Sal Perez in the American League, Buster Posey in the National League. Good on Buster Posey, boy. What a year off.
Totally deserving. Yep.
I mean, 330, 418, 560, 12 home runs. I mean, what? I mean, that is just stunning right there. Poor Joey Bart. He's never going to see the light of day. First base of Vlad Guerrero Jr. for the American League, Freddie Freeman. I'm good with this. Max Muncy probably deserving maybe this year more than Freeman, but Freddie Freeman always deserving. I love Freddie Freeman. Big fan, huge fan of the Freddie Freeman. Obviously, when you look through the rest of the guys here too, second base, you got Marcus Semien, which is a great lesson in patience. He had a terrible April, but now he's up to 20 home runs already. In the National League, you got Adam Frazier. So
that was
look for
pretty
the Pirates.
Cool to see. That was great to see.
I know,
he's had a
very
great
nice.
season.
He has. He's absolutely deserving. I mean, Ozzie Albies, that's probably the only other guy you would put in that category, but good for Adam Frazier. And I'm glad that the fans actually voted him in. I think that's what's cool.
That's what I mean. That's why it's great.
It's great that the fans are like, hey, I'm not just going to always vote for the star guy if he's not playing, like Mike Trout, who made the All-Star team, but alas. Rafael Devers at third base, Nolan Arenado for the National League, Devers for the American League, Xander Bogaerts and Tatis, your shortstops. That's going to be fun. And then, of course, Mike Trout, because he's Mike Trout. Aaron Judge, Teoscar Hernandez, first All-Star game start for him. I would rather see Cedric Mullins, personally, but, you know.
Yeah, but he'll probably start for Trout, because Trout's not going to be ready.
Right. I mean, that would be nice to see. Get him at the top of that order. That'd be fun.
Yep.
Ronald Acuna, Nick Castellanos, incredibly deserving. Jesse Winker as well. And I'll tell you what, too, nice moment there for those two guys. They got to tip their cap in Cincinnati last night, Castellanos and Winker, when the crowd, they recognized them, I guess, on the scoreboard as the All-Stars that made the team. So congratulations to all of them. All-Star game should be a good time. Let's fly through some other stuff. Yosei Kikuchi, another guy, a left-handed pitcher that could help a lot of teams. If I was the Blue Jays, this is another guy I'd be all over. If you can get a Kikuchi, a Kyle Gibson, somebody like that, I mean, especially Kikuchi being left-handed, that this would be a great addition to any team that thinks that they're contending. The Mets, I think, should go after him. Whatever team thinks that they're serious. Double dong last night for Nate Lowe. We mentioned Joey Gallo. Nate Eovaldi, mid-3 ERAs. I keep talking about it. Like, maybe something's finally clicked after all these years for Nate Eovaldi. I know it's only the Royals, but this is not new. Devers in that game, 3 for 5 RBIs. He had a dinger in that one. Corbin Burns was great against the Pirates. He did leave the game later on, though. He said he had tweaked his knee or something like that, and he was just like, it was already like he was 100 pitches in. They were just like, look,
it was in the 8th,
So I wouldn't like freak out about it. Ian Anderson, 7 innings, 2 Ks against the Mets, but he was able to, well, again, DeGrom was the performance there. Of course, they didn't get the win because DeGrom pitched. Framber Valdez, 7 innings, 6 Ks versus the Indians. His ERA is now 2.18 with a 1.04 whip. So again, patience rewarded. I have Framber Valdez as a top 25 pitcher. I have him as 23 overall on my list. And I think there's room for him to grow and break the top 20 for sure. especially if Aaron Nola and a couple other guys keep pitching the way they are. But where do you have Framber rest of season?
I am 24. I'm glad you brought that up because there was somebody in Discord who was like, why is Framber Valdez so low in rest of season rankings? Do Dan and Joe hate him? And again, we have rest of season rankings and our expert consensus rankings on the site. And he was the 25th starting pitcher. And I was like, oh God, where do I have him? And I looked and he was 24th and you have him right there too. So, whoever commented on it, I don't remember his name in our Discord, but I don't know where you want us to move him. It's really hard to push him up that high in the rest of season rankings. But what's great about Valdez is, obviously not only that he's back, since we essentially thought that he was going to be out for the entire season, but he's leaned into that changeup, which has made his ground ball rate, which was already giant, go like astronomically giant, like league leader, like Barry Bonds leading the MLB in on-base percentage, way ahead of the curve in that sense. So there's nothing to dislike at all about Valdez. At the same time, like, how high do you want to put him? Like, there are a bunch of people. So yeah, top 25 pitcher pretty easily, but that's about where I'm going.
Yeah, I mean, he could crack top 20. I mean, the guys I have in front of him are guys like Joe Musgrove,
sure,
Sandy Alcantara, Kevin Gossman, Taijuan Walker, Trevor Rogers, Carlos Rodon. I mean, look, then you start getting into those other guys like the Freddie Peraltas. I ain't putting him ahead of Freddie Peralta.
No, right. There's a list.
I'm not putting him ahead of Clayton Kershaw, Walker Buehler, Lance Lynn. Like, I mean, some of those guys like Rogers, like Nola, like they could work themselves backwards and Framber could work himself up. But, he's not cracking the top 15, I think, this year. I don't think Framber's that kind of pitcher.
He doesn't have the strikeouts to get there, I don't think.
And I'm the biggest Framber guy there is. And always everybody knows the color of my energy. I mean, all right, let's move on here. Enough defending him. Jose Altuve, 1 for 3 with a grand slam, 2 walks, 18 dingers for Jose Altuve. Stop booing Altuve, everybody, because the more you boo him, the more he wants to stick it to you. Dominic Smith breaking out. Last week we talked. I said Dominic Smith's taking better at bats. He's going to break out of this. I expect a big series from him against the Yankees in that ballpark this weekend, weather permitting, of course. JD Martinez 2 for 4 with a home run and a double. Michael Brantley 3 for 5 with a bomb of his own. He's hitting 345 on the year. Good for you. The duds. Urias was a dud. Barrios again. I want to talk about Barrios in a second. Rodon was a little disappointing, but he still had 9 Ks. And Sean Manaea gave up 4 runs in 5 innings to 6 Ks against the Rangers. I think that Jose Barrios needs a change of scenery. I think he needs a different voice, a different pitching coach, a different organization, maybe the National League with no DH. I don't know. I think Jose Barrios will be a fascinating piece for a team to be very aggressive on, give up the moon and the stars, because you might get a guy who then maybe finally does figure it out. But sometimes this is the case. Like Garrett Cole is a perfect example, right? Of a guy that was a very highly thought of pitcher, was going to be the ace of the staff in Pittsburgh, didn't happen, gets a change of scenery, all of a sudden doesn't have to be the ace, and all of a sudden relaxes a little bit and finds another gear and maybe finds some sticky stuff along the way. But what are your thoughts here about Barrios? Do you think that a change of scenery would do him good?
There is more to Barrios than what we see. And what's funny is that every time I look at his numbers, I always expect them to be worse. And I think part of it is because I'm fairly heavily invested, and he wasn't a guy who I was out there running to target in this draft season, but he's a guy who I found I constantly ended up with, because I think for the most part, it's the type of guy, Joe, we talked about it in draft season, where when you have a guy who's like a huge prospect where everybody was super excited and he turns into somebody who's just very good, but not elite, fantasy managers get a little pissed off and they're like, whatever, okay, he's a huge
he is 95 innings. He's 7-2 this year with a 3.5 ERA, a 1.14 whip, 96 Ks in 94 innings, just 24 walks. That's a really good pitcher. Would you rather have him or Framber Valdez rest of season?
Him, yes, that's a good question. He's around there, but I'd rather have him, and I really would. But I agree with you. I think there's more here, Joe, that's just not unlocked, because you see him every once in a while with the slider. He looks completely dominant, but when he goes out there and I roster him and I'm like, all right, I need a good start, I don't feel overly confident that he's going to go out there and dominate, because he does pop these off a bunch of times. There's just like all of a sudden you have a couple of 0 strikeout starts, which just doesn't make any sense to me. Now, the one thing I will say is that the White Sox, for the most part, this series against the Twins, they were tough. Like, I watched that. They were battling nonstop throughout this entire series. They were not swinging and missing. They were having, I watched it with the Maeda start where he wasn't good, but he made a lot of really good pitches, and they were just hanging tough. They took great at bats this entire weekend. Still, at the same time, I do kind of hope that Barrios gets traded, especially to the National League, because I do think there is another gear that he just hasn't reached yet. So I'm buying him to the extent I can just for that possibility. But even if not, I feel confident in what he's going to give me.
I think the Mets should be all over this because I don't think you should wait for the injured guys to come back. Be aggressive. You have a moment. You have new ownership. You have money. Go make it happen because Syndergaard's going to be a free agent too. What are you going to do with Syndergaard? I mean, let's start to look ahead a little bit. And look, here's a perfect example. I think people are upset. Here's greater than zero. Lovely human, right? Jose Barrios needs a new planet. He's awful on this one. He's not awful on this one. We just proved it. We literally just proved that he's not awful. Look at those. Take the name away. You give me 95 strikeouts and 95 innings and a 3.5 ERA with a 1.15-ish whip in the American League. That is a really good fantasy starter. I'm sorry he never became Shane Bieber. I'm sorry he never became Jacob deGrom or Max Scherzer or those guys. But maybe he will. The point is, maybe it's just a different voice that you need too. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just think it's something that.
And let's clarify. You're correct. I don't want to be talking about Jose Barrios like he's been a disappointment. He really hasn't. If you knew at this stage that you were at the halfway point, he's basically going to be on pace for 200 innings, has a 3.5 ERA and a 114 whip and more than a strikeout per inning, you would take that any day of the week. But I do think that he has the talent to be even better than that. And I do think if he goes to National League, especially, it could really be unleashed. So there's no worry. You throw him out there every time. But in some respect, it does feel like there's more that we're waiting on, even though he's been very good.
Mets, Braves, Cardinals should be desperate for it, but I don't know if they want to, I don't know where they are mentally right now with everything.
Yeah, I mean, look, who else could use a starter is the Dodgers because you've got obviously.
Really,
you don't know about Trevor Bauer. You don't know about Trevor Bauer.
No pun intended. I think their hands are tied with Trevor Bauer. I do. I think they're maxed out here.
But even so, Joe, you lost Dustin May. Right. Now we're basically at the point where you're like, okay, are we starting Clayton Kershaw rest of season? Like just no more babying. Tony Gonsolin had an opener
Kershaw's
yesterday.
Been great, though.
He has been great. I know, but they've been so careful with him.
By the way, speaking of that, I think I'm gonna have Tuma just do the first 2 minutes of the show, and then I'm gonna come in and do the rest. Yeah, I think we should have openers, right?
I think
Mayor and Tuma should come in, do the show for 30 seconds to a minute, and then you and I just come in and finish out the rest of it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's
openers?
Fair. I'll take it.
All right,
I'll take
podcast openers. All right, real quick, news and notes on the injuries in one breath. Ronald Acuna was scratched with a sore back. Zach Eflin scratched with congestive and body aches. Blake Snell activated off the IL. Will start this weekend. Colton Wong left the game with calf tightness. Rosario left with abdominal tightness. Gregory Polanco dealing with hip inflammation. Moncada missed weekend series with bruised right hand. And Trey Turner out a few days because of jammed fingers.
Yay.
There you go.
Nice
All right. It is that time again, boys and girls. It's time for Manscaped. That's right. Manscaped.com. Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0, the greatest grooming history tool, the greatest tool for male grooming in the history of. It's Friday. It's Friday.
It's fine. Does it teach us history? Learn history while you manscape. The new cool fad.
It's actually, it's like Ken Burns actually did an entire series just for the Manscaped products.
Perfect.
So you actually, when you turn them on, you get a voiceover narration about the Battle of Gettysburg. That's amazing. Good.
I hope it's James Earl Jones or something really authoritative, That'd be a great, hey, we're inventing a new product right now, so let's go.
Oh, my goodness. And, of course, on top of all the things you'll learn and get the education, you'll also get the longest battery life, the advanced skin-safe technology, the new guard lengths, and a whole lot more. Go to manscaped.com, use that code LEADINGOFF on us. And again, you get 20% off and free shipping. Again, that's 20% off free shipping with the code LEADINGOFF, manscaped.com, your balls. And, of course, thank you, and you'll get smarter. You'll get smarter.
Obviously.
As well.
Of course.
All right. Home run update. D. Gordon Liddy can't be stopped. Ties Wonky Penguin at the top for 13. Turf Durgason. Muncie now has 10. And, of course, our own Dan Harris. Dan and I have made a decision that we're not going to keep picking. We're just going to pick a guy now on Fridays for the weekend. That's what we're going to do. Right? What's the fancy word you use for this? You use the fancy word for this. In perpetuity? Is that what you're saying?
In perpetuity. Well, weekend perpetuity. We'll do that. Our home run calls for Friday, they last till the weekend because you guys are active in there.
Yeah.
There's no way for us to keep up. So, we're going with that now that you've caught up.
Basically, caught up. We're being embarrassed. Let's call.
We are.
We need to save face now because
I know.
We gave you 2 months of weekend calls where we're only picking 5 and you're picking 7. So now we're evening the field.
Yeah.
We're just going to pick one person, though, to still keep you guys ahead of us. But let's talk about the slate tonight. 14 games on the slate on the main. You got that one game starting earlier. But look, not a lot of cash game arms tonight. Lance Lynn's your one big cash game arm at 10K and 9.7. You got a lot of GPP guys. Taijuan Walker has pitched very well. He's only 8.7 on FanDuel. Pablo Lopez is 9.5. Kyle Gibson at 8.4. So you can definitely go with any of those guys. I think they're good starters in terms of GPP because they have upside. I love Taijuan Walker personally. He's been very good this year. As a secondary arm on DK, Taijuan Walker is very cheap. He's just 8K. I know people are going to be tempted with Luis Patino, even though it's against Toronto. Just not enough innings there. Alek Manoah, 7.9. Maybe the temptation's there too. To me, on DK, give me Taijuan Walker at 8. Give me Kyle Gibson at 7-8. And give me a Happy Joe. That's what I'm looking for. What are your thoughts on the pitching tonight?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with it. The one thing I would say is that the weather in New York sounds terrible. How is it by you, Joe? It must be bad right now.
Well, I mean, the worst is over from what I've seen. Like it says light rain possibly tonight, but they don't expect any delays around the game time right now.
Very good then.
It looks like it might be before, but it seems like they're going to get it in at least, like 50% chance. But yeah, that's your concern. So look, if this worm turns later in the afternoon, then you can go ahead and make that change. But Kyle Gibson, you know, Lance Lynn, like those are the two guys I think I would have my eye on.
Lynn for sure is the guy. Lynn for sure is the guy right now against Detroit, who, you know, they occasionally pop off a good game. But again, it's in Detroit, so you don't even have to worry that much about the park. You know, obviously when Chicago's home, it's a little different. But Lynn is just the easy choice. But I do like Walker as a secondary arm. And Gibson at this point, again, we talked about it on the Betting Bro show. He leads the American League in ERA. So there's really very little to worry about, especially against the Mariners. So totally fine with him.
Now you have a 4-outcome game here with the Nats and Dodgers. Urias 8.9 and 9.2. Scherzer at 11K and 10.5. Look, I'm fine with rolling with Scherzer tonight too. Max Scherzer's shown me enough this season that I'm confident no matter who it is. And the roster percentage is going to be a little lower tonight because it's the Dodgers, where you can go ahead and even drop that cash game lineup in a tournament and see what it does, because you might be pleasantly surprised. So I'm cool with that as well. The lineup builders tonight: Austin Hayes on both sides, 3.1 on DK, just 2.5 on FanDuel. He's swinging a hot bat. IKF on FanDuel 2.5. Miles Straw getting moved up in that lineup, 2.7. Shed Long looks pretty good lately too. If he's in that lineup, 2.4 on FanDuel. On DK, David Fletcher, who's been hot, 3.2. Adam Duvall against lefties, I always like that, 3.8 on DK. And Keston here at 3.5. So it's time for the Perpetuity Friday. That's right. I'm going to go with Pete Alonso hitting home runs in the wiffle ball field that is Yankee Stadium. So hopefully I don't get rained out. But even so, they do the double dip tomorrow. Who cares? Give me Pete Alonso for the weekend. Who are you going with for the weekend, my friend?
I somehow got accused of being too chalky with Paul Goldschmidt, a guy with 11 home runs coming into it yesterday. So I'm going to go with a guy with 5 home runs.
I'm the guy that picked Vlad for like 3 days in a row when I went on vacation.
And it worked.
And it did work. But
that's all right. We love our Discord peeps. I'm going to go with a guy with 5 home runs on the season, and that is Anthony Rendon, who I'm hopeful that this weekend is his bounce back for the season. So Rendon into weekend perpetuity.
And there's a comment from Scott. Sucks that I can't be live on the chat every day. Work, life, lucky day off. Yes, it is a lucky day off, Scott. We appreciate you spending your day off just hanging out with us. And again, if you want to subscribe here over on Fantasy Pros MLB channel, we have a lot of fun things going on. Plus, when you subscribe and you go enter the MLB contest that we've got going on, you get that 3x value. You get 3 entries to the price of 1. Go to fantasypros.com/MLB contest. You drop your review of the show on Apple Podcasts or CastBox. You fill that out. You show us your YouTube subscription. And then boom, just like that, you're entered to win. What is the new giveaway again? It is what?
Shane Bieber signed jersey. Now, for the Ohtani, we will be emailing the person today and may have already
spam
this morning. And then on Monday, I'm going to do the ode to everyone who left a review in June. So we will do that on Monday's show. I need the weekend. I have to craft it so that it sounds normal. But that's the deal. Thank you, everyone, again, for leaving a review, for subscribing to the YouTube channel. Really helps us out, and we appreciate each and every one of you.
So we will have a show on Monday, even though it's the holiday weekend.
Correct.
I think we give ourselves an extra half hour, though. What do you think? Maybe 9:30?
You want an hour show?
No. I mean, an extra.
You want
half
a
hour
2-hour show?
A 3-hour show?
No, all day live stream?
No, I
Start at
don't. No, I
9:30.
don't
You're
want
saying?
that. I
Start
mean,
at 9:30.
honestly, with you, cake.
You
I
say
could
that
do
to
that.
all your co-hosts, I'm sure.
No, I don't.
All right, so you want to start at 9:30
Well,
then?
I was gonna say give everybody an extra half hour's sleep, including
That's
the
fine.
peanuts and the Cracker Jacks. A lot of
9:30
people
it
might
is.
be off. Get the kids some breakfast, relax a little bit, go make a bagel run or something, and then we'll come talk a little baseball for you. But you want to tune in on Monday because Dan's gonna have the reviews, and that is always
Always a good time.
spectacular. That
Yep.
is the best. All right,
Yep.
and you're the best too. We appreciate everybody who watches and listens to the show. If this is the first time you're joining us, where you been? Subscribe to Leading Off Pod wherever you get your podcasts, and of course, like I said, join that YouTube army over there on at Fantasy Pros MLB as well, and get yourself some free stuff. We like giving away free stuff, so that'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. Have a great July 4th. Party, have fun, go out there, even if it's raining, go dance in the rain, have some fun out there. Hopefully you'll get some good weather and enjoy the beach and the family and the fun because you deserve it. And we'll be back again Monday to do it all again. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Dinger Dan, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.